Welcome to the Tracks and Sign Podcast. We're your hosts, Justin Smith and Brandon Molson. We're two outdoorsmen from the Southeast Michigan area, and we're here to share our passions, experiences, stories, and connect with like-minded individuals about all things hunting, fishing, exploring nature, land conservation, foraging, habitat, and game management.
Justin Smith.
What? Wow, you sound really cool.
Oh man, this is groundbreaking. I don't have a headset on, but it just feels different.
You sound
good.
So,
and we're live.
Oh, we are live. And we're getting videotaped.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Welcome to my home office.
It's a pretty badass home office.
So, it's interesting because you know when you first meet somebody and there's so many different things that you could talk about, and then someone's like, oh, how about the weather? So, Brandon, what do we...
that was just my idea.
What are we talking about today?
He's like, what are we going to talk about today? And I go, well, I chose last time, and here we are in an argument after we just spent the last couple hours talking about what we probably should be talking about on this podcast recorded. And my first suggestion was, well, we should probably talk about the weather and how that affects what we're going to be doing to our properties in the next coming week and months.
If it looks anything like my backyard right now, we're in for a long spring.
Yeah, but we can still use the elements right now. There's, at least here in Michigan, for the past, few weeks, it's been packed with snow, and it's almost not enough time in between snowfalls to really take advantage of where tracks are, at least from the little area that I've been walking through. Because I'd get excited, snowfall would happen, I'd want to jump out in the woods and see where things are moving to, but it would already be covered back up from yesterday's movement or what have you. So I haven't been out there in about a week moving cameras around in this public spot that I do, but last couple days, yesterday, it got up to almost 50 degrees. Hence the reason I am wearing short sleeves today.
Yeah. I haven't seen your arms in
Dude. Hey, in Michigan, that's warm weather right now.
Oh.
2 weeks ago, it was single digit. Or a week ago, a couple days ago.
I got the house windows open right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, what the camera can't capture right now is this huge muskie right above my head. I don't know if it can see that in the thing, but beautiful muskie.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Yep.
Yes, the camera.
Justin's biggest deer is right behind the camera also. Can't see that either.
First buck bow kill.
Yep.
So almost 50 degrees.
Yeah.
We just had some pretty big snowstorms here in Metro
Snow's
Detroit
melting
area.
right now, too.
Yeah.
Could make things a little different, but maybe it gets stuff excited and moving out there, looking for some food. Spring's right around the corner. Yeah,
actually, I was thinking about that. So, all those the really cold freezes out in Texas that were happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see some of those photos floating around where there was
Crazy.
dozens and dozens of deer? They were.
I didn't even. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So a lot of hundreds. Thousands of deer. There was this one photo. There was probably hundreds of deer in this one photo that they had to gather up. They didn't survive.
Oh wow.
So Michigan, we're used to that kind of weather.
Yep.
Obviously out west, they're not geared towards sub-zero temperatures, especially not the animals. It's been really cold over the last, we'll say month and a half.
Oh yeah.
So snow's melting. Temperature increase definitely advances movement, increases their movement, definitely on the go for some food. Do you think, though, in your opinion, so the last, let's say, month and a half, do you think it took its toll on any of our deer herd?
Oh, I mean, if you're looking at Michigan in general, where we're at is very different, I think, than, call it the UP or even northern lower peninsula. So I'm sure it wreaked havoc throughout it. In one day, and just the heating, the snowfall turning into rain, frozen, that whole back and forth stuff had to have been affected detrimentally up north.
Oh, yeah.
If not around by where we're at, southeastern Michigan.
I'm trying to think, where are the deer going right now? I mean,
what's interesting about that is I'm thinking about shed hunting. Like, I haven't gone out and really shed hunted yet.
Even though you did, oh my God.
Besides us finding that monster pair,
Oh my God.
5 feet from each other,
like the most perfect looking 10-point
sticking in the ground, just beautifully down in Ohio. But in Michigan, I haven't done any shed hunting. I mean, of course, I'm looking a little bit while I'm doing camera movements and stuff out on public, but it would be with this melt. If it's anything like me letting my dog out in the backyard, you let the dog out and they do their business in the grass, snow falls on top of it. I pretend like it's not there anymore. Goes back out there, walks on top of the frozen snow, does his business, snow falls again. Yeah, it's a clean yard. But all of a sudden stuff starts melting and you're like, there's a lot of shit back there.
A lot of shit.
Yeah. However, I'm looking at this like, well, now I've walked back in the woods a bunch of times. Snow is melting. Maybe there's like sheds that are coming through the layers that the other animals haven't been able to eat yet. And now we're going to be able to find them.
The thought of sheds being on top of sheds just like fires me up, because I would die if I saw that in real life. Like, the image of it is amazing. But so with that thoughts, shed, food,
yeah,
layered after layer. I mean, obviously
it came on fast in Michigan. I feel like if there was anything still green or anything that's growing, and there was different mosses and different lower vegetation that still was somewhat green or was becoming green again, all of a sudden, bam, gets hit with snow, layers, frozen, thawed, back and forth, and now it's all just going down super wet. It will cause a lot of flooded areas, at least in the public land where I hunt, where this past summer it was dry. Well, now it will create those flooded timber areas throughout, making it ideal environment for
duck.
Gobble, 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 gobble.
Turkey, yeah. I'm thinking of wood ducks.
Well, wood ducks for sure, flying in and out of there, but those turkeys find those like secluded areas back in the woods with flooded timber, and they roost right on top of it. Oh man, that's what I'm talking about.
I want to know what they're, so when we're talking about like the green, it snows, melts, it's green kind of still, right? More snow. Where are they?
You're talking about where the deer are going though.
Yeah, I mean,
I went off track there for a second.
Hey, I mean, just like when we were just at lunch, we probably should have been talking about what we're talking about right now, but that is not typical with us. But yeah, so okay, do you want the turkey or do you want the deer?
Let's go with deer first.
So where are they going? Because you read an interesting article recently. You know more about it than I do.
Meat Eater, so I'll give them a quick plug. Mark Kenyon, Michigander.
Yes.
Wired to Hunt. Phenomenal information he puts out and that whole crew puts out. But it's funny, like this time of year, some people swear by that Valentine's Day. After that, you're pretty good to go find some sheds. Arguably last week I saw a huge rack sitting on a deer still on a camera walking through my backyard. But I do know there's sheds down on the ground for sure. And whether it's half rack or full rack, they're moving somewhere. And I would argue in these, and I guess it's not always like in bad weather, but in these like more frozen times, I haven't seen a deer come through my yard, the regular herd that goes in and out every day for a couple weeks.
Wow.
It came through my neighbor's yard, the one with the rack that I'm talking about with the apple tree. They just gravitate towards that thing. But besides that, I haven't had any like herd come through the side of my house that usually comes through every night for a while. And last night, 3 of them came through.
Dang.
Looked like all doe. One could have been a shedded buck, but I'm assuming they're all doe. Who knows though? I think they go to a place where they still feel safe, but they have some sort of cover from the elements, not too far from food and water.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, right. So right now it's 50 degrees out. The deer are like, the deer are probably smarter knowing that there's more snow and ice coming, but they're probably like, okay, like we're going to find food, right? Their body temperatures is rising. They're warmer. They're more active.
They can't go like 100 miles. Like they're not migratory animals. Like the birds coming down from the Arctic Circle and getting shot at by us waterfowl hunters.
Yeah.
Deer are going. They have their home range. Like a doe's home range isn't very big. A buck's home range is give or take, a handful of miles, if that. So it's not like you can just avoid. If you're in a Michigan climate, you're in it. But what kind of pine system or areas that might still be comfortable but protected? I'm thinking like big pine, spruce, those types of wooded areas that. What are those typically found on like elevated ridge system?
Yeah,
something like that.
Definitely higher ground.
Yeah, where they can still use the elements to their advantage, but they're not far from food, water, and they have that cover.
Yeah, like underneath. So when
big branches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So remember when we were walking around the property in Oscoda, and we'd come across some of the beddings, and they were underneath those large trees where. You obviously knew there was fresh fallen snow, right? But they had a place to, they weren't in the element. They were protected from it.
Essentially, they're using like the fallen pine needles from however long as like their ground base or dirt, whatever. But they still have that almost bedding feel to it.
Do you think? Silly question here, Brandon Molson. Do you think deer are kind of like squirrels? They put food away, or are their bodies made to consume food and like it's stored?
It's a good question. I don't know. Fun fact though is I do know that when fawns are born, the mother doe overeats and regurgitates it for their fawn to eat. Like eats it, carries it back, like eats as much as it can, because obviously it's not going to like throw it in her back pocket or carry it with her hoof, but she'll just overeat and then throw it up, and so then the baby fawn has an eat.
Wow.
Yeah, has a meal.
I didn't know that. That's a cool fact.
Fun fact.
Yeah. I mean,
so are they doing that now though, or do they overeat and like put on a lot of weight to make it through harsher times? To what extent, I don't know. Because think about it. Some of these bucks are coming fresh off rut, second rut, third rut. They're running themselves to death, and all of a sudden they get hit by a harsh winter. If they didn't get shot by hunters, or hit by a car, what are their chances of making it, and how are they surviving in these types of climates?
So I was so excited to go down to Ohio for the end of bow season. Gave them food.
February 1, we were down there. Crazy.
Yeah, it's just okay. So these deer in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
So you haven't seen them. You haven't seen their normal patterns in, you said, about a month and a half.
It's been a long time, and then last night they came through for the first time in quite some time. They were sneaking over to my neighbor's house, but that's just like he has like some freak apple tree that's been there since the '60s, and
just keep
they gravitate towards them. Yeah.
So coincidence or not, warm up yesterday, and then you see them get back in almost like their normal habits.
Interesting. Yeah, yesterday was the first 40+ degree weather in quite some time. Where were they before that though? Like how small does their home range get when it gets to those types of, I don't know, cold weather?
Is this magical apple tree your neighbor has? Is it does it produce enough to feed like a couple deer?
Oh yeah. Like all summer long, I mean, they're gravitating towards this thing. That big, I've talked about it a couple times now, but there's a bachelor group of 4 large bucks that every single day, at least once, where I see them hitting it once a day, at least. And then the does come through it too. So
we, up at our property, we planted several apple trees about some 2 years ago, some 3 years ago. Some of them didn't make it. Some, I think there's like 2 that definitely made it. But it takes like 3 to 5 years for them to actually produce apples. So But what we have noticed is that they love to come up and like screw with the tree. So we had to put piping around it or fencing. But it's interesting because we don't see a lot of activity around those areas during the winter months. And then all of a sudden it's like, what, they remember that it's there.
Right.
Same. I mean, obviously these deer in your neighborhood are used to this apple tree, right? But where do they go? And let's say that apple tree is the source of is a primary food source right now. Especially knowing where you live in Rochester Hills, like it's not like there's around you is a ton of farmland, is there?
No, not right where I'm at. There's ag north, but still that's miles away. There's we have a little apple tree growing in the back of our house. We bought our house 2 years ago, and this was already in there, and it had the metal grating going around it to try to protect. They still come up to those little browse though, and they bite them off before they can even sprout a little crab apple kind of deal. But that article from Mark Kenyon about or the series of pictures that he was posting, it was like having the skill set to go on your property or surrounding properties, and to your point, where deer are going, determine which of the deer that you've been tracking on your camera systems throughout the years are making which scrapes or which rubs, and then when was that rub created. And so in his case, it was here's the buck in 2020 that made this rub, and it's like a shredded up tree. And then it's like here's this deer that made this rub in 2019 and 2018, and you can see the difference between what the tree looked like. And now that I'm putting two and two together, a rub that happened 3 years ago, it looks almost not like a rub.
It looks like the trees just had a bare spot and it's just growing new.
A bare spot, but then there's also like, it looks like it was sliced, like cut, not like a fresh cut, but like a cut, and it's healing. It's very fascinating. And that was in his example was just from 2018. So what, 2.5 years ago that rub was made, and it looks like that. I know there's a bunch of trees that look like that.
So many trees.
So where are the deer going? Yeah. They're everywhere. Well, I don't know, but if you could start putting patterns together, like, you'll hear a lot, and maybe a lot of the listeners have experienced this as well. Every year, certain deer come back to certain scrapes on the ground and licking branches. Don't ever remove that licking branch. Like that's a gold mine. Whether you created it or it's a natural one, that thing needs to be there to stay. And how big those scrapes get, community scrapes are just a gold mine to be hunting near.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting you say this. So we've been doing a lot of work. Obviously, we've talked about it at the Oscoda property. But about 3 years ago, we were following some very specific deer over the course of, at that time, it would have been about 3.5, 4 years. And till this day, rubs and scrapes are being done, we know for sure, by two of the same deer. Till this day, there's two that are still alive. So, mind you, there's 2 bucks that we know of that are at least 4.5, 5 years old.
Oh, nice.
2 of them. One was taken by the neighbor.
Oh.
Beautiful basket. Nice.
I thought you were still saying, like, they're still... so the other one has to be that big guy that you saw out of range.
I forgot about him. Psych. Yeah, right, dude. I'm still losing sleep over him.
Psych.
Oh, my God. Yeah, maybe you're right. The only thing is, though, is these specific scrapes and rubs are more towards where my dad hunts.
Okay.
I have not had cameras in front of scrapes or rubs, like, by design, since I moved to this new spot where we put up this year.
Yeah. Well, you're going to your property this week. Next week.
Yeah.
A week from today, something like that. Let's say it stays how it is. Right. It's not supposed to snow between now and then, right?
Up north it is, not here.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
It's not. I mean, it's a
Your
week
property's
away.
2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
Something like that. 3
Also,
hours.
who knows about the what? Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Best job of all time, weatherman.
yeah, I was saying, I wish I could be so wrong all the time.
Paid $100,000 to just be wrong every day. No, hey, some of them do good work, but for the most part, it's unreliable.
No, they're all unreliable. I'll say it. I know you want to say it.
No,
I'm just kidding. Hey,
let's say it doesn't snow though, and it stays 30 to 40 degrees. So actually, you know what? Let's back up a second. There's a reason why you haven't gone up to your property to start doing hinge cuts and some of the work. Why?
I mean, it's too cold.
And just because, and not saying that you're soft,
Yeah, no.
on the cold weather, but like mechanically and like realistically, why don't you do work in temperatures like that?
Yeah, I mean, so for instance, if I'm thinking of hinge cuts, right, in 0 degree, 2 degree, 5 degree, let alone let's just go to freezing, so 32 degrees.
Yeah,
a hinge cut's going to be a very different looking cut at 5 to 20 degrees. Mm-hmm. It's going to fall differently. It's going to the limb's going to crack differently. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah.
It's just so, and then okay, so leave let's say you're doing work, cut down one tree, leave the chainsaw laying around for a half hour in 2 degrees. Thing's not gonna. I mean, It's gonna turn over, but it's gonna take some work to re-up that. Yeah, it's too cold. Breathing heavy and working like that and sweating and just
some of the oil start gumming up.
Yeah, like it just
equipment starts not functioning the way it should.
But at the same time, dude, when we went up there, what, 4 or 5 weeks ago? 4 or 5
It was
weeks?
19 degrees, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like it was cold, but like, dude, we broke a sweat.
Oh, yeah.
We were.
I would have done some work.
I would have too.
But once it starts getting into single digits, you go to do you're trying to strategically hinge cut to where it's not going to just snap off. Chances are it's not a preferred time to do things like that.
Yeah,
because some of the moisture inside of the tree is just, it's frozen, and it's going to snap rather than naturally break off, but keep some sort of connectivity.
So I'm pretty sure my dad knew about hinge cuts. Something new I've learned over the last year, right? Doing them, not even knowing about them.
Oh yeah, no, you guys have been doing them in the right way too, not like above the head.
Yeah,
it's waist and but you've done more removing the stump and everything.
Oh,
You're trying to you're now it's time to start freeing up some of the ground and letting well, that's awesome. Letting sunlight down to the bottom.
the ground dried up. Yeah,
you've been making a lot of trails on the property. That's pretty cool.
It's all cool.
Yeah,
just going out to the state property and setting up cameras like you're doing is sweet. And
if I go with you next week and we start doing some work, along the way while we're walking out there, I would love to be seeing, because I really do feel that if there was sheds to be found, they had been. I'm thinking of it like 10,000 years ago, that fossils and stuff have been in between layers of the earth. That's how I'm looking at the snow right now, because we got about 1.5 feet out there, and in some areas up north it's
even more,
several feet.
Yeah,
and so I feel like some of these racks have been stuck or frozen in these snow layers, and now it's ours to find before the animals use them as some sort of protein source.
No, 100%.
Yeah, or nutrient source or whatever. Not necessarily protein, but
probably.
I don't know.
All I know is if you go to
throw it in there,
the pet store, and you want to buy a little antler nug, it's like $30.
I can't believe people actually sell those things. I mean, I look at them like treasure.
I mean, when I saw the 10-point after the fact, I was like, Brandon, you know how much you could sell this thing for? And then in my head, I'm like, first off, I know he would never sell them.
Yeah,
and
someone's going to give it to like their dog to run around with. No way.
No way. Are you... Think about, okay, hang on a second here. I know we got to wrap this up soon, but think about all the work that went in to go randomly finding those 10-point, that 2 sets of.
Oh, hundreds of dollars. I mean, like a lot of,
maybe
right? Thousands.
So like at that point, it's a complete bonus.
Yeah.
Like there's no way.
We spent like over $100 in bait just that one day. Like we went down there multiple times and found one pair of shed.
Accidentally. So, yeah. Definitely looking forward to getting up in the woods, right now forecasted somewhere about the mid-30s.
What's your strategy as soon as you hit the property?
Dude, getting the chainsaw, and I have about an acre circle we walk that needs to be cleared
Right away.
But it's not thick. I mean, no. It's thick, but a brush hog and somebody on a chainsaw get it done in, if you're up there for a weekend, get it done in 2 days.
Yeah. So at least get stuff on the ground, and then maybe the next week go up there and do some.
Yeah, start pulling,
clean up.
start burning. Because that's another thing is that the land that we're going to be, clearing majority of it hasn't seen daylight in maybe forever. I have no idea. It's not like trees just appeared, but
Well, it'd be interesting also to go to where we think the source of, where we know some of those beds are, and then trying to put together multiple years of rubs, and then build strategically around that.
And with that being said, I've noticed that's actually a really cool idea. We should definitely do that.
Yep.
There are a couple other areas too that are new. I know are fresh rubs just started this year. That would be interesting because it actually follows like a path corridor. And it'd be interesting to know where they're coming from. I think I have one clue for one of them, and I don't know if it's the same deer or not. But
we got to refresh the camera. Well, and then in a couple months, it's going to be impossible to decipher what's a buck and what's a, because then they're for sure all going to be, sheds are all on the ground come April. The month of April, nothing has antlers. And they what do they start growing back in May?
Yeah, May-ish, June-ish.
Start getting nubs May, June, July. They start looking like velvet.
I was surprised that one of the deer that we saw in southern Ohio had nubs. And almost looked like velvet.
Little velvet nubs.
Seriously.
Yeah, that looked weird.
Especially for like the time of year.
Yeah. Yeah, because it definitely wasn't like a shedded buck.
No.
Because they have like weird looking, right when they shed, they have those weird looking circles where they connected.
Yeah.
This was not that.
No.
And it was a baby. Interesting.
What so what do you, besides, hopefully north next week,
yep.
what do you got going, looking forward to? What's coming up?
Well, before this podcast, I wasn't even thinking about the snow melting and starting to flood some of those timber areas back there on public. So I haven't had anything but a squirrel. Well, in the last 2 weeks, I have had one deer show up on my camera that I moved. After the first snowfall, I moved my camera where I found a heavy traffic area, and it was like a corridor, and that night, stuff came through. The next few days, stuff was moving in and out, and a monster buck showed itself, which was unbelievable find in this place. Unbelievable find. I didn't even know something like that big was back there. It was so ridiculous. I'm so excited about it. And then nothing. Nothing's shown up on this where I have the camera positioned.
How long?
It's been weeks.
Like more than a month?
No.
So think about this. It's been so cold.
Yeah, and more snow.
Yeah.
Just keeps coming. So a squirrel popped up there a couple days ago, and about, I don't know, when it was still really cold, I did have one doe show up on there, but I haven't seen anything. So I need to go back there, and I'm going to start moving it more into turkey scouting areas.
I bet you will find where they were, though, within
for sure.
several hundred yards of that camera.
Well, it's snowing right now. I mean, no, it's melting right now, the snow, so.
Oh, yeah, maybe. No.
It'll be a little more difficult, but what's cool about that is the heavily trafficked areas, like the true corridors, will be down to mud.
Oh, yeah, it'd be tore up.
And, those mud spots will be very telling of where they're moving to. Because in the snow, it's cool. Like, we had a herd walk through here today or this morning or yesterday, but those, true corridors are mud. Like, they're...
Deer highways, baby.
Oh, yeah.
2-track man, or, deer made.
That's where you need to be.
That is where you need to be. All right, Brandon.
That's all I got.
Close us out.
Thank you all for listening today. We appreciate your support. We are always looking for ways to help our listeners and enhance the outdoor experience. So please let us know if you have a specific topic to discuss or guest you'd like us to have on the pod. All industry partner discounts can be found on our website, tracksandsign.com. In case you see some apparel or accessories you like on our website, we do donate 10% of total sales each quarter to different associations like Ducks Unlimited and NDA/QDMA. If there are any other associations or conservation effort you'd like us to support, please contact us as we would love to help. Email us at fishhuntfind@tracksandsign.com. And lastly, please subscribe to our social channels to stay updated on our journey of finding Tracks and Sign. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Etsy, Apple Podcast, and Pinterest. Signing off.